As Amari Stoudemire said back in the day, the Knicks are back. 143 to 120 win over the Kings. Just the second time with 140 plus points this season, second time with 40 plus assists this season. And all three of the wings went absolutely crazy in this game. Coming up next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Don't download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. And I want to thank you all for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making us a part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit that auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And in case this episode isn't quite enough to sate you, your favorite podcast has an newsletter now. Introducing the Locked On Knicks Daily Newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. On today's show, I'll get into the crazy offensive night that was for the Knicks on Saturday night against the Kings. Talk about Josh Hart's amazing triple-double, pushing him closer to history, getting closer to Clyde Frazier's single-season record, which is fantastic and honestly crazy considering he just scored his first triple-double a year ago. Talk about how OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges both came through in this game, both combining to average 30 points together in this one, even if Mikal didn't quite hit 30, but crazy game between those two. Talk about Jalen Brunson's amazing passing coming back to play in this one with everybody else going on all cylinders. He switched into amazing facilitator mode. And then also talk about how this sort of play could be sustainable, because this was about the best that the Knicks looked all season. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how good of an offensive game this was. And honestly, I think it was better defense than what it would appear to. You know, if you look at just the box score, the Kings shot pretty well, from the field, and it obviously scored 120 points. You might be like, oh, the Knicks kind of got into a shootout, but really they forced a ton of turnovers. They made a lot of good plays. I think ultimately the box score was not super telling on just how good the Knicks defense was. I guess other than the fact that, yeah, they outscored them by 23 points. So I suppose that is the ultimate measure of success when you outscore your opponent by that much. But I thought the pace really was what dictated this. I mean, the Knicks they were unrelenting. You know, they were just running every single time up and down the floor and, getting out in transition, never slowing it down to the half court. And I think this might be the best version of this team. I think if you've got these big lengthy wings that can disrupt the passing lanes, and you have Josh Hart, who's so great in transition, whether it's himself or finding others, Jalen Brunson, who can, we saw in this game either run the break or be a fantastic 3-point shooting trailer in the game. Like, there's just a lot of different options for this team if they're running. And the Knicks took 105 shots in this game, and this game was only regulation. So that's a ton of shots, because they typically average 88 shots. So like right around the middle of the pack in the NBA as far as shots taken per game. And a lot of that is due to the fact that they run a slower pace. So, sometimes they do get out in transition or whatever and try to run a little bit, but they don't typically do it for a whole game like they did in this one. So almost 20 shots more in this game than they normally take. And you might be like, well, certain shots don't count towards the box score. So like, did they just not shoot a lot of free throws in this game or what? But they did. They also shot free throws. They took 23 free throw attempts, which is 2 more than their season's average. So it was just pace paid off for the Knicks in this game. Really let them get out there and do whatever they wanted. They also had 40 assists, which was good for second this season as a team. Only their game against the Nuggets were they better. They had over 40 assists in that one. This one just even at 40, which is fine. Go figure, it was their second highest point total as well. And double go figure, it was one of OG Anunoby's best games as well. So I guess really what we've seen over the last 2 seasons is if OG Anunoby is on, the Knicks are on. It's such a direct correlation, in the games where we see that it looks like OG maybe isn't fully engaged or isn't shooting, like is shooting just abysmally poorly. It seems like the Knicks struggle, and in the games where he puts it together, it's like a totally different team out there. The Knicks as a team in this one had 13 stocks, so that's steals plus blocks. 9 of those were steals. Certainly helped in terms of being able to get out in transition, being able to push the pace. If you're getting that many steals, that's going to generally help you out. OG and Mikal Bridges, I mentioned already, and I'll touch on them more in the next segment, but both scored almost 30 points. OG had 33 and Mikal had 27, so they averaged out to 30. But more importantly, they shot a matching 67% from the field, including really good from 3. And I think my main takeaway with those two is just if the 3-point shot comes and the defense is there, everything else opens up for them. Suddenly they're much better off the drive. They're looking for cuts more, but it seems like the 3-point shot and then the defense are like the 2 things that kind of need to be going for them first, which is fine. I mean, ultimately their roles on this team are to be elevated 3-and-D guys. And I think this game showed that they could be exactly that and do it amazingly. But for the first segment, Rob, the highlighting in this one, I want to give it to Josh Hart. I think that he deserves it. So often, Gavin and I end up kind of burying him in the show, not intentionally, but just because he does a lot of the same stuff every night and just does everything well. But I wanted to kind of give him a personal shout out. So in this game, 20 points, 18 boards, 11 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 8 of 14 shooting overall, 1 of 2 from 3. And I thought this was just another like virtuoso performance for him. I mean, just getting inside, finishing with ease, kicking out of drives, kicking to guys in transition. I mean, he just had eyes in the back of his head this one. It seemed like every time there was someone open from 3 or anywhere on the court, he knew exactly where they were going to be and was able to find them. So far this month, Gavin turned me on to this stat. He trails only Domantas Sabonis for most rebounds in the month of January. So 6'4" guy in the NBA in 2025, it has the second most rebounds in the entire league in this month, which is just crazy. And I'm talking total rebounds. I think in rebounds per game, he's a little behind, but the fact that he stays healthy every single night, and then at 6'4", like this month, I think he's averaging close to 12 rebounds a game, something like that. It's crazy. And he just seems to get better and better rebounding the ball every single day. He made really great looks all game passing the ball too. I thought that he was a part of OG getting going early. Like he floated him a nice easy pass on a cut early in this game, hit him in transition at least once. There was once where OG was kind of trailing on Josh's hip in transition, and Josh was like, oh, I could go up for a layup here, but I'm probably not going to make it. So he just kind of almost like running back handed it. It was like an option play almost, he just sort of handed it off to OG there, got it right in the breadbasket, and OG got to go up for a nice easy layup in transition. As I mentioned, he was also just kicking out to open shooters over and over and over again off penetration, whether that was on, in the half court or whether that was in transition. I mean, he just had a sense for where every single guy was going to be. He was spraying it out like crazy. He hit Brunson a number of times for threes, as either a trailer or just as Brunson was floating around the perimeter with, Hart penetrating, and then managed to hit the corners a bunch, hit OG, hit Mikal. Just a phenomenal game for him in terms of, what he was able to put together. And then I just think that he is just a hugely impactful scorer around the rim too. And that sort of opens up everything for him. He shot he shot 1 of 2 from 3, which was fine, but that didn't even really matter. Like, he could have taken no threes in this game, and he would have still had a huge outsized impact on this game, just because of the fact that because he's such a threat getting inside now, and everybody realizes, like, "Oh, this guy is one of the best interior finishers in the NBA," it's opened things up for him in a new way where, he's now, able to draw the attention of the defense like a more alpha scorer does on his best nights, and use that to the advantage of getting it out to guys on the perimeter, getting those assists for himself, but also getting hockey assists when, guys make that extra pass after he kicks it out to them. So yeah, just a phenomenal game for Josh Hart. He's the heart and soul of this team. But the two guys that maybe are the biggest indicators for how good this team is on a night-to-night basis are OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. They both had fantastic games, so I want to get into them a little more in depth next on Locked On Knicks. But first, I need to let you know about our friends over at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, and I'm back in, and let's talk wings. Let's talk OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. So OG Anunoby, 33 points, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 12 of 18 field goals, 4 of 7 from 3 in this game. Mikal Bridges, similarly great, 27 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, 10 of 15 field goals, 5 of 7 from 3. And it's crazy how much the game opens up for these guys when the 3 starts going in. I think that's my biggest takeaway. I mentioned that in the first segment a little bit, but when the 3's going in, everything clicks for them. It's like, and I wish that I didn't feel like that was what made the defense click in some ways for them, but it does seem like on some nights, just seeing the ball go in the hoop inspires them all across the board. But lucky for the Knicks in this one, like for both of them, the 3 was going in. They were clicking on all cylinders. They were managing to get inside, make cuts, finish at the rim, stuff like that. So it was just an all-around great game for both of them. But I thought they kind of found that early season flow again from their opposite corners. Like early in the season, the Knicks were just running sort of a more basic offense, but I thought that it worked really well where they would just run like horns up top, which is where you often would have like 2 screeners, like Cat and Hart both screening, and then you'd have Mikal and OG in the corners. And it's very basic actions. Maybe they're trying to add more wrinkles than that, and which is what has led to those guys not always being in the corner. But I think that opens up a lot for them, to start in the corners and start to find their offense that way. Though there was a lot of scenarios in this one where one of them was above the break and then would make the extra pass to the other, or would make the pass to the other, cutting or whatever. So there's clearly more ways to execute with them. But I thought that I think it really starts in the corners for those two guys. Like that's their sweet spots. And luckily they both love different corners. So OG loves the right corner. Mikal typically loves the left corner. And, they have those spots, love those spots. And, I think a lot of good can come from starting them off in those corners, getting them, comfortable there. And then all of a sudden they make a 3, then they start cutting from there. And then they start cutting. And then all of a sudden they, feel a little more comfortable getting the ball above the break and taking a 3 or whatever. And it feels like a snowball effect with both of them. So whatever they can do to like find early success for these guys, I think is going to be key for the rest of the year. But yeah, there was a lot of nice passes between the two as well. They kind of had it wasn't the exact same scenarios, but they had sort of mirror plays with one another, or a play that sort of mirrored each other. OG at one point later in the game got a nice steal in the backcourt and snaked a pass around to Mikal for an easy finish. So it was a nice sort of Prigioni-esque play where he got a steal in the back. Mikal was still already back there, and just managed to drive in and then just look around and just use those big go gadget arms and go around the defender, find Mikal, and got an easy layup that way. Likewise, Mikal on a break sort of hit OG on a similar play where Josh Hart was pushing, kicks it to Mikal. Mikal goes inside like he's going to go up for something, and the defender was respecting him, I think, because he was going up for layups and stuff in this game. And then OG cuts in he was about halfway to the corner there, cuts in, and Mikal kicks him a nice pass. He gets a nice, easy bucket as well. So a dunk, no less, which is always nice. But yeah, I think if these two really start hitting on offense like this, it just kind of completely changes who the Knicks are as a team, especially because like the offense was in many ways coming from the defense in this one. I think that generating all those steals, again, 9 steals, lots of transition points, lots of transition opportunities in this game. I think if these guys are locked in and like they're disrupting on the defensive end and then are hitting the shots on the offensive end, like it's a shame that we only see them both, or at least to this point in the season, I've only seen them both really on for a handful of games together, I should say. Like usually it's Mikal is doing really well, but OG's kind of doing whatever, or OG's doing really well, but Mikal has an off game. It just they don't seem to both be up at any given time. It's almost like a scale a lot of the time where like one has to be good and the other is bad or whatever. But hopefully we see more of what we saw in this game going forward, because I think that the Knicks are going to need that, especially if they want to get where they want to get as far as potentially, making a deep playoff run or whatever. They're going to need these guys to step up in a big way and just continue playing as well as they did in this game, if not even better. But I want to talk about Jalen Brunson as well, who, speaking of guys who played really fantastic, he had 11 assists in this game, had another virtuoso passing performance. And I want to talk about how the Knicks can sustain this level of play and why playing so fast was such a big impact for them in this game. So getting into all that in just a second. So let's talk about Jalen Brunson. The captain had a very, for his standards, low-key game in this one. Just an easy breezy 25 points, 11 assists, 9 of 17 field goals, 4 of 6 from 3. But I thought that Brunson really had another one of those games, sort of like what Gavin and I have been talking about, where it just felt like he just kind of did whatever he wanted passing the ball. It was very reminiscent to, I don't know, maybe 20 games or so in this season, where he had that stretch of like 6 or 7 games where we were going like, man, I didn't know that he had this in him. Like, this is crazy. It felt very similar to that. But also sort of the best of both worlds, because he wasn't just being a distributor or just being a scorer. Like, he was also being a crazy good spot up threat. I feel like most of his 3-pointers in this one came off spot up opportunities where he just got a nice, swing pass that got him, hit him in the breadbasket, and he made a 3 off of that. And I think the Knicks need to go to that as much as possible. Like, I've been beating that drum for 3 years now, but some of Brunson's best work shooting is as a spot up shooter. I think that, he really needs to get those opportunities, and the Knicks need to like go out of their way to find opportunities to get him moving off ball, get the ball in his hands, and get him, easy opportunities that way, make it so he doesn't have to work for every single shot. I think that that's sort of the key for him, at least shooting the ball. And again, 4 for 6 from 3 in this one. Like, I think that kind of shows it. Like, if you want to find easy opportunities for him and find ones where he's going to make a lot of them, I think that that's the way to do it. And with Josh Hart kind of doing what he's doing as far as facilitating and getting inside and spraying the ball out to shooters, I think it just makes more than enough sense to just keep kind of doing that. Like, Josh Hart is sort of evolving into his own version of like a Draymond Green for the Knicks right now. And Brunson has been the Knicks version of Steph Curry for a couple of years now. And I'm not saying that the Knicks are the prime Warriors or anything right now, but they're certainly playing great. And there are certainly some parallels that you can draw with how the Knicks can try to play versus how the Warriors played. And a lot of Steph's success for years has been getting off of screens, away from the ball and catching the ball, shooting it. He does plenty off the dribble himself, but a lot of the magic with him is the off-ball movement and all the things they're able to achieve with that. So hopefully Brunson keeps doing that. But passing, he made some really high level passes too. He had a nice look snaking it to Shamit from a baseline drive. So Brunson drove in and got all the way inside, and then there was met with a little more attention than what he was expecting, and just thought on his feet, got it out to Shamit in the corner, managed to wrap it around a defender, like sort of drove baseline, and then did the thing where he whipped his own arm, out of bounds sort of, and swung the pass to Shamit that way. Really great look there that I liked. Also had a nice job hitting Towns as a trailer off a pick and roll. So, Towns was right behind him, and Brunson sort of drove in, drew like 2, if not 3 defenders. And then sort of similar to what I was talking about with Hart and OG earlier, just kind of put it right in the breadbasket for Towns, like turned around and almost just handed it to him, like a running back handoff. And then Towns fumbled the pass a little bit initially, and then went up for it, and after like a quick dribble and establishing position, got the bucket there, but could have just as easily been a layup too. I thought that was a really nice look. And then just a lot of quick thinking and transition from Brunson this one too. Lots of like touch passes, 1 or 2 dribbles, and then eyes up, look for someone else, get the ball down the floor, and manage to get a lot of his assists that way. So really great double from Jalen Brunson. Another really like virtuoso passing performance for him. And then I want to close the show just kind of talking about the bench and the minutes and whatever. Josh Hart like made the minutes police joke after the game. Like Alan Hahn was interviewing him, was like, hey, how much did the time off help you guys, and blah blah blah, and like, how are you feeling going into this game? And Hart was like, we got a few days off. Tibbs gave us some days off from practice. Like, the minutes police can take it easy today. And I get where I know that the minutes thing is a polarizing thing, amongst the fan base, amongst the analysts of the team, whatever. But I will say, like, the bench getting the minutes that they did in this one, I think allowed the team to play the way that they wanted to play, and allowed the legs to stay a little fresher and all that. So, even though Josh Hart got 40 minutes, everyone else was able to clock in at around 35 minutes or less. I think I want to say it was OG had like 35-30 or something like that, or maybe that was Mikal. But or no, I'm sorry, that was Brunson. Brunson actually played the second most minutes, and then Mikal and OG got relatively light nights by their standards. Cat also only played 28 minutes, which was in part just that he was kind of struggling a little bit. Still, I assume it's the thumb thing. Still, just doesn't quite look comfortable shooting the ball right now. Could also just be a slump. I don't know. I guess we'll see as time goes on. But the sort of important thing to me was that all 4 players off the bench, the whole 9-man rotation of Deuce, Shamit, Payne, and Precious, they all played between 10 and 18 minutes. So Deuce played 18. Payne, I think, played 10 and was the low man. And then Precious played like 16 or 17. And Shamit, I think, played like 13 or 14. But, and they also had 4 guys played 2 minutes or more of garbage time. So you could reasonably say that, maybe those minutes would have gone to the starters, or maybe they could have gone to some of the bench players. But either way, I think that it helped the Knicks. You know what I mean? Like the layoff helped, but you're not going to have 3 days, or really like 4 days by the time you factor in the fact of when the game took place. Like, you're not going to have that long in between games all that often. And especially not in, if we want to talk about like playoff time or whatever, like you typically get like 1, maybe 2 days off in between games if you're lucky. So I think that, the Knicks just need to kind of work the bench in more. Like, I thought the bench was overall, pretty impactful. Like, they didn't have a single guy that ended with less than like a plus 16 individually. So I mean, and they had some guys that were like a plus 20 in their minutes. There was some really nice, bench units that were able to be put together with like Deuce and Hart and Mikal and Precious and Shamit, I think was one of them. That kind of stood out to me. And I was like, oh, this is a nice little lineup. Like, has the defense, has the ball handling with Hart and Deuce and, and Mikal, who I think did a better job of, being a facilitator in this one and getting assists. So, I think that the Knicks have something here. They just need to be willing to embrace not playing everybody too much, I guess, and keep those legs fresh and keep the transition game strong. Whatever they could do to keep that going, I think that's what we see some of the better teams. Like I think, OKC does a good job of playing a lot of guys and letting guys stay fresh and getting people, uh, having people be spry to get out in transition and really push the pace and generate opportunities that way. Because if you have a good defense, which I think the Knicks can, I think this game showed, the Kings were playing. I know they had a tough start this season, but they've been playing really well lately. I think they were like under Doug Christie. I think going into this game, they were like 10-3 or something like that since he took over. So, I mean, they've been playing really good. The Knicks beat a good team in this one, a playoff team from last year. I think if they want to, continue doing that, they're going to need to keep themselves fresh enough to be able to not get stuck in the mud anymore. And, there was also a lot of talk in this one about how they were like proud of the outcome against the Nets. And I agree that, sometimes you're going to get stuck in the mud and you're going to need to kind of grind to get through certain things. But the better idea is, in my opinion, is just not getting stuck in the mud in the first place. And, being in a position where you can, just be spry all the time and be running and everything else. So I hope the Knicks take that into consideration. I'm not going to call this a citation from the Minutes Police or anything, and I don't think that I'm even a high-ranking officer on the Minutes Police. But I hope they consider that, and I hope that they keep trying to get the bench more and more involved. And I hope once Mitch gets back too, that they have kind of a robust, rotating cast of characters off the bench and can continue doing that. And hopefully that'll lead to a great second half of the season here. Great post All-Star break time, which is generally when the Knicks tend to shine. And then hopefully a great playoffs too. So we'll see how it goes, but we'll be here for you guys to cover everything on Locked On Knicks. Till next time, though, thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace out.